Everyone, it's Adam Cockburn here at LVR Realty. Thanks for checking in today. We're doing a blog for the investors again, and this is about the recent Reserve Bank announcement regarding the LVR requirements, which means that banks will be permitted to lend more to property investors when they're looking to buy a new investment property. Yesterday the bank announced that as opposed to currently the rules are that a bank can lend 65% of a property's value to the investor when they're buying a new investment property. From the 1st of January 2019, they can lend up to 70% of the property's value to the property investor. So that's an increased borrowing ability, if you like, which translates to increased purchasing power for the investors. Great news for investors, of course, and ultimately good news for tenants too, because it means more investment property can be made available for rent. So let's have a look at what this means to investors. I'm going to look at two scenarios. First scenario is if you are a home buyer, if you're a home owner, you own your own property, but you are wanting to buy your first investment property, what does it mean to you? And secondly, if you are an existing property investor, you already have a couple of properties and you want to buy another property, what does that mean to you? So let's look at the first scenario, which is if you are a homeowner buying your first investment. So let's just imagine you have a home and the home's value is $800,000. The mortgage on it is $400,000, so you have $400,000 in equity. The maximum you're allowed to lend under the current rules is 80%, and 80% of the home's value is $800,000, which produces a maximum lending of $640,000 against your home. You already have lending of $400,000. So it means you can borrow another $240,000, which can be used as the deposit for your first investment property. So that $240,000 can be borrowed against your existing home, and that is used as the deposit to buy your investment property. So here we are under the current rules, 65% loan to value ratio. You can borrow 65% of the new property's value. You take your $240,000 as a deposit, which you've lent against your own home. That forms your 35% deposit. The 65% that you borrow against the new investment property is $445,000. Don't worry if you don't quite understand the arithmetic of it, but that will give a total property value of $685,000. In other words, if you borrow $240,000 against your existing home, you can buy your first investment property to a total value of $685,000 under current rules. Well, the new rule says you can borrow 70% of your new investment property value, and so what that means is that your $240,000 deposit, again borrowed from your existing home, complemented with a 70% mortgage of $560,000, means that you can buy an investment property not of $685,000 but of a total value of $800,000. So you can now purchase a property that's $115,000 more. This is 17% more purchasing power. So the new rule means for existing homeowners who can buy their first investment property, you can buy more, in this particular example, 17% more valuable investment property. So let's look at scenario number two, which is you're already got a couple of investment properties as well as your own home, and you're looking to buy another investment property. Let's imagine, for example, that your own home, we won't even count that in the picture. You don't want to increase borrowing against your own home. Maybe you don't have a mortgage on your own home. That's fantastic, lucky you. But you're only using your existing investment properties to raise additional lending to form the deposit for your next investment property. So let's say, for example, you have a current portfolio worth $1.5 million, and you have a mortgage on that portfolio of $750,000, which means you've got equity of $750,000. You're in a good position. Under the current rules, which allow you to borrow 65% for your new property, you have a maximum lending ability against your existing portfolio of 65% of $1.5 million, which means you can borrow up to $975,000 against your existing investment properties. You already have lending of $750,000, which means you've got a spare lending capacity of $225,000. So you can borrow that $225,000, which is 65% of the total value, as your 35% deposit on the new investment property. together with a 65% mortgage on a new property of $415,000, means that you can buy a new investment property to the value of $640,000. And that's great, good for you. It means without spending any of your own cash, you can buy a new investment property for $640,000. But in today's market, that's reasonably limited. There's not a lot of property you can buy for that sort of value. Under the new rules from the 1st of January, it says you can borrow 70% of the value of your investment properties. And so, again, instead, if we have your maximum lending at 70% against your existing portfolio, 70% of your $1.5 million portfolio is $1,050,000. And you have an existing lending already of $750,000, which means you can borrow an extra $300,000 under the new rules, which will be the deposit on your investment property, as opposed to the $225,000 under the current rules. So you can already borrow more to make up your deposit for the new property. Then, if that has to be a 30% deposit, the new property mortgage of 70% is $700,000, which means you can buy your next investment property of $1 million as opposed to $640,000. And that is, what's that? That is a big increase. That's a 56% increase in the value of your next investment property. So for existing investors, this makes a big difference in your purchasing power, which is great news. So some of you might have felt trapped, locked in by the existing LVR rules. This now means that you will have more room to move. Obviously, rents are strong out there. It's a good environment to get out and buy some more, and that's good news for tenants too, because it means investors will be able to purchase more investment property, supply more to the market, and maybe there'll be more choice out there for you. Some of that might be a bit complex. If you don't understand it and you want to know more, please feel free to get in touch with me. Happy to talk to you, happy to answer your questions. It's Adam at LVR. Thanks for checking in. See you next time.